Hello, you're welcome to my channel. My name is Collins Anthony. I'm super excited to have you with me. And today I will be looking at the SUMIF function in continuation of the series we've been doing on Excel. So sit back and relax and enjoy the lesson. Please kindly subscribe to the channel. At least it helps to encourage us that we're doing this free and we want to know that it's making an impact out there to someone who needs it. And we also recommend that you do send in questions if there are things that are not clear about what we've spoken concerning the topic. Thank you. Now let's go into it. I'll just remove this screen and let's go straight to the class. Now we'll be treating this function, SUMIF function, under the following outlines. We'll look at the explanation of the SUMIF function in Excel. We'll look at the purpose of using it, why do we use SUMIF function. We'll also take a look at the syntax. How is it written? If you want to write this function, how do we write it? How do we go about it? Then we'll look at the elements involved in the SUMIF function. What are the elements? Range, criteria, the sum range. Then we'll look at simple examples, from simple to complex examples. The simple examples of SUMIF function, or multiple criteria, and of course, SUMIF function with the wildcard characters. Thereafter, we'll look at one trick for using the SUMIF function, and then we'll conclude with some errors that we may likely encounter when using the SUMIF function. So now, let's go straight. What is SUMIF function? Like the word suggests, sum and if. Sum, if, function. We all know sum means addition, to add values together. It could be two things you want to add together. You want to add 50 with 50. We'll call this the sum. Gives you 100, that's sum. But then we now have it attached to with a condition called if, the statement if. So if now in this context is a criteria. We are asking you want to sum but with a criteria. We sum with a criteria. So it's a powerful tool that allows you to sum values in a range based on a specific criteria. It allows you to sum, to carry out to sum values in a range based on the condition you may have set or that is set down for you. Now the purpose is that it simplifies data analysis. Now imagine if you're a salesperson and you work in a store and you want to get all the expenses summed up. If you are to do that manually and you want to do it with a condition, a criteria, you will spend a lot of time doing that. You may likely also make one or two mistakes in the process. But with the SUMIF function, it simplifies things, it automates things for us. That is one of the purposes amongst many of SUMIF function. Now the syntax of the SUMIF function, how is it written? To explain this, can we kindly just have a little data? Let's have some figures on our screen. I will just get rid of this for now. Alright. Now let's have some script. Assuming we have, let's call this item. Let's call the cost of the items. Okay, let's look at what kind of store. Alright. We have candy. Let's say we have eggs. I think we can have a store that sells this. And flour could also go. Let's take noodles. It could be anything. Let's take bread. And let's take cake. And let's take eggs again. It could be anything that was sold. So what we're saying now is that these items are were sold at a particular time. And let's look at the cost of these items given. Let's just appropriate values to them. Let's give this to be 160. Let's give 2370. I'm trying to avoid using a round figure. Let's take 5, 3. Let's just mix it up. 40. Okay, let's take a whole number now. Let's take 6400 bread, cake. Because we take cake as 3000, and the eggs. Let's mix it up. All right. Now, assuming these items were sold at different time interval in a shop or a store, and these are the values or the amount in the currency that it was sold in: 1,560, the eggs 2,370, 5,340, 5,000, 6,400, 3,000, 1,740. Now, ideally, if we were to just carry out an ordinary summing operation in Excel, as we have discussed previously in our other videos, we use the first thing is to use our equals to, and we'll call the function sum. See, we look at the range we want to sum from B2, from C2. This way we want to carry out sum. We're not adding these values. These are the values we want to add to get the answer. So we're adding these together. We start at C2 and all the way down to C8. So we write C2 range to C8. You can see that it has selected the range for us. So this is what we mean by the range. This is the range now. So we press enter, we'll get a value, we'll get an amount. Now this is summing it up. This is summing it up. But however, let me put sum here. Alright. We're looking at sum if. Now summing with a condition. I'm still coming to it. We want to look at the syntax. The syntax here, we looked at it, is we start with an equals to sign. We move on to the function. Then we have an open parenthesis before we have a range. In this one is the same syntax we're going to use. We start with an equals to sign, which is normal for all except functions formula. Then we call the function sum if. Now mine is in lowercase letters. It doesn't really make much of a difference if it's this, whether it's lowercase or uppercase. Sum if. So I have done the same thing. The equals to. The next thing is to write the function, which is the sum if, as one word. Open parenthesis. Now you see what is required of us. After the function, you need the range. You have the range, then it's followed by a comma, then we have the criteria, followed by a comma, then we have this sum range, and the parenthesis close. So these are the elements we're going to talk about. The range, the criteria, the sum range. So after writing the equals to, you call the function sum if, and we have an open, that's a parenthesis, open bracket, depending on what you call it. Then we have the range, the criteria, the sum range, which is the formula arguments we're going to put inside of it. And what is this range? When we did this sum, we said the range was the values, the range of cells that we want to evaluate, the range of cells. In this case, the range is the range of cells that we want to evaluate against our criteria now. The one was not against any criteria, we just evaluated the total of this. But this time around, we want to evaluate this range of cells against our criteria. So that takes us to the word criteria. Is that condition that you want to apply to your range. Let's say peradventure you've looked at this and you say, I want to add all the numbers that are greater than 2,000. That's a condition. You looked at it and said, okay, all right, any number greater than 5,000, please sum it up for me. That's what we're talking about. If this number is greater than 5,000, sum it. If it's not greater than 5,000, ignore it. So that's the criteria. Then we come to the sum range. Now, in most cases, the range is different from the sum range. But at times, the sum range can become the range. We'll talk about it later. But basically, the sum range now is the range, the same range of cells that you want to sum. We want to sum it if the criteria is true. If the condition is met, where we are going to sum, we call that the sum range. The sum range. In this place, the range is the same as the sum range, because if the criteria is true, numbers that are greater than 5,000, is from here we are going to get our range to sum. So that is what we mean by the syntax. So let's look at simple SUMIF functions to drive home the point we're talking about. So we already have some items here. This. So let's continue with this. We're still writing our formula. Now, I want to write a formula that with a condition or a criteria to add only the sales, the cost for the sales of the cost for the eggs. I'm going to pick out eggs and leave the other ones out. So I'm saying write a formula that will give us the sum of the sales for eggs alone. That's what I'm going to do. So the criteria now is eggs alone, just eggs. We want to sum only the values for those that have eggs as their item name. So the range first, where are we going to look for the names eggs? Usually we're not going to look at it from this range. It's from this other column we can pick out eggs from. So our range will be B2, that's where the naming starts, start with candy, all the way to B8. So we'll take B2 to B8. Alright, it's already highlighted, B2 to B8. That is that. Then followed by a comma, as we said. We now move to criteria. What is the criteria? What criteria, what condition do we meet? Are we testing it against? We said the condition is that it will look for the items with the name X and pick their costs. So then we have to put it under quotation mark, since it's in text, and we write exactly the name that we see here. Inside is EGGS eggs, and we close our quotation mark. Our criteria has been written. So what are we saying? We are telling it, all right, look in B2. If you see any item with the name X, pick up the amount. So it comes here, B2, it checks, oh no, this is candy. It moves over to the next, oh yes, this is eggs. It picks it up. Moves to the next one, B, oh, this flour. Oh no, we don't need it. All through to the end and goes to eggs. Oh, I've seen another eggs. So if there are about 1,000 of these items, it just goes straight to wherever it sees the egg in the range, picks it up and sums it all and gives you the value. Now, the sum range, we want to add, but within which range? Now, this is the sum range where we are going to get the values from. So the range is from C2 down to C8. C2 down to C8. Now we can close the bracket. If I enter, press my enter button, gives me a value. Wow, gives me 4,104, 4104. Now let's take a look at it. If truly we want to test whether our answer is correct, if truly it picked only egg 2370 and 1734, when we add these two together, it gives us this 4104. So you see that it has done exactly what we asked of it to do. We wrote a formula for it to select only the one that has eggs and sum it up. So that's one example, a simple example of the SUMIF function being used. It can also be used with a wildcard. A wildcard. What's a wildcard? We're going to look at what a wildcard is. So let's title this place here as SUMIF with a wildcard, right? We can do some adjustment here. Okay, let's supposed to be able to just adjust it a bit. Sorry. All right. To accept what we have. Okay. SUMIF wildcards. Are you getting it? Now, what do we do by this? What do we mean? A wildcard. Let's look at our formula again. Now, equals to SUMIF again, parenthesis open. Now, what do we want to do this time around? We want to give it a criteria. What's the condition we want to give to it? Alright, we have candy, and cake here. So candy stands with C and cake stands with C. So instead of just eggs now, the other time we said the one that's spelled with eggs as in EGGS. Now I want to give it a condition of not just eggs. I want to say look for items with a name with anything that starts with C. Look for items with anything that starts with C. Peradventure you can't really recollect which of the items that you're looking for. So alright, any item that starts with C, just go ahead and sum them for us. That is just the whole plan. Go ahead, sum it for us. So let's see now, summing. We said the first thing is the range. What do we want it? Where do we want it to look at? We're looking at any item that starts with a C in the range. The range is B2 to B8. B2 to B8. Yes. Then, like we said, this is just the range. What about the criteria? Our criteria now, we're looking for something, items that start with a C in it. So as usual, we have our quotation mark. As usual, a quotation mark, we start with it. Then this time we're going to use an equals to, since we're going to search for something. So with a C, we don't just leave it at that. We have to put a symbol, a special character, and that will be asterisk. And we're saying look for any item that starts with C. We don't really care what follows, whether it's an A or a B or a C or a E. Just any item that starts with a C. Now this asterisk we have used here is what we call a wildcard. It could be asterisk, it could be a question mark. It's used in Excel in functions like this. So this is a good example and a good opportunity to bring it in. Then, since it's our criteria, have we done the quotation mark to close? No. Alright, close it. Then, of course, our comma, our criteria has been established. Now, what range? What sum range? Our sum range is C2 to C8. C2 to C8. Now we can close our parentheses and we press enter. Wow, that's giving us a number. It was 4, 5, 6, 0, 45, 60. What did we just do? Look at the formula. Our criteria this time, unlike the other time, was look for any item with the full word X. See, we didn't use an equals to here now. But in this one, we said, you're going to search for us, give us a result. Because we don't know exactly which of them, but anything that starts with C, we give it a wildcard character and a steric to follow. Don't forget the steric can also be in front, not just at the back. So that is another example of a SUMIF function. Now, we want to move forward to the third one, which is the multi-criteria. Not just one criteria, but two or more criteria. The multi-criteria in SUMIF function. Let's get something now. Let's expand on this instead of me to delete this. Let's see how we can modify this to suit what we want. Let's take quantity since we're dealing with the store. Now, of course, this candy item was sold for this price. It could be maybe how many quantity of it. Let's say 20 of it was sold. X could be maybe 10 crates or 10 pieces was sold for this price. Flour, we could have 30. You just assign values to them. 32, 14, 23, 8. All right. So we're having candy as an item, having 20 as quantity that was sold for this price. And we're only using a superstore, a store example. It could be anything. It could be properties. It could be houses. It just could be anything. It's the same syntax and the same method. And we can have reps, sales rep, responsible for this selling, so we can get our criteria we're looking for. Let's assume we have a sales rep called Mark, and we have another one called Angel. Let's have Sarah. Let's have Mark again, and let's have Tom, my nickname. Let's have James, and let's have Angel. Sorry about this. We have to get rid of that sum. We use it as an illustration, sum function. So let me just get rid of it here, since we're done with it. All right. So now we have people responsible for this item at specific time and date, the sales that was done. This to enable us create a multi-criteria formula for our SUMIF function. And when we are talking about multi-criteria, a different function comes into play. No longer just SUMIF, but SUMIFS. 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 Most of the time, it's easy for us to just go ahead and begin to write the formula straight the way we did for the other one. But I want to support you to show us how to use the function arguments in writing formulas. So if we find any of them easier, we can use the one that we feel is better for us and more suitable. Go to formulas. You see your f of x means insert function. F of x. You can click here. These are different categories of formulas. We can find this SUMIF function under maths and trade. We can also search from it from here. We can just go here since I know it's under some mass and trade, if you keep going down, you will see sum if. Now this is sum if, and we have right underneath it sum ifs. Bravo. Yeah, it brought out this function argument for us to put in our arguments, the values we want to put in. Now, the syntax for the sum if is the same, almost the same, just an extension of the sum if. Just an extension. Now, the sum range. What is the sum range? When we're here, we said the sum range is sorry. Can we just get that back again? Okay. Let's just take it back. Now the sum if. Alright. Let's add it in. What is the sum range? Where do we want it to carry? The other time we said the sum range is where we want the range of cells we want to carry out the sum. So we want to look for, first let me tell you the criteria. Now we say multi-criteria, meaning I'm going to have more than one criteria. My first criteria will be to look for the quantity, total number of items. Total number of items, are the quantity now, sold by a particular sales rep in that store. So assuming I want to see, I see Mark came out twice, so I want to know the quantity of items or cartons that Mark sold at. As we're doing a promo, everything is in cartons, packaged in cartons. So at the end of the day, Mark, how many cartons came through you or went through you? Or pick up any other person, how many cartons, how many quantity did you sell? So instead of that, we could just write a simple formula that will run through all the sales done and give us our answer. So we're looking at adding up the quantity, and another condition of, say, it must be a particular sales rep that sold that particular item. So this is of importance to us, and this is of importance to us. Not that others are also of importance too. So our sum range will be A from A2 down to the last, I think that should be A8 down to the last. That's the sum range. Now in this case, we don't have to use the comma, because since we are imputing the values here into the argument, it will bring out the formula for us. We just need to key in our inputs, our values. Even under the criteria, we don't even put the quotation mark, because the program itself, Excel itself, will do that for us. So what is the criteria range? Where can we get the criteria from? What is the criteria range? So what are we looking for? The items that want to know the quantity as the first criteria. Of course, it is items. We want to know how many quantity of these items were sold. So we're going to look at our criteria range, first criteria range as B2 down to B8. Oh, we have an error here, please, sorry. Okay, we used the wrong sign there. It should be colon. Alright, not semicolon. Sorry, still writing semicolon. Okay, A8. Right, that's been taken care of. A2, sum range, A2 to, why is it giving me error? Can I take it again? A2 to A8. Alright. There was some maybe typo error somewhere. Then the criteria range will be B2 to B8. B2 to B8. Alright, it has accepted that. Then the criteria, the first criteria, we said it should be what? The first criteria. items that start with a C, items that start with a C, items that start with a C, as we did in the other wildcard, items that start with a C. So let's look at the items that start with a C. Items that start with a C. Items, we have candy, we have cake. So what do? We don't do the quotation mark as we do outside the argument. So just do our equals to and our C and our white card. All right, let's see now. Okay, it has accepted it. It has put in the quotation mark for us. Then criteria range 2. Criteria range 2. Where are we looking at? We say not only items that start with C as the first criteria. We're looking at a particular sales rep must be responsible. Just one sales rep we want. So we'll put it as the reps range is D2 to D8. D2 to D8. All right. Then what is the criteria 2? Criteria 2 is that we want a particular sales rep. The criteria 1 is must be an item that has a C initial starting it. Criteria 2 is that it must be a particular sales rep. In this case, we want to use Mark. Like I said, we don't have to put it under the quotation mark, since Excel will do that for us. But we need to take notes. In this my criteria 2 in the function argument, my mark is capitalized the M, but in this place it's not. So just for precaution, even here it's not. So we may have to go back later to attend to that. But let's see what happens. So with all this done, we have already written our formula. It's for Excel now to finish it up for us. So we click OK. He has done the calculation for us. With all this done, and he gave us 20. 20 as the quantity sold by Mark. Now let's see whether it's correct. Now we look at Mark. Mark has 32 here. Are you seeing it? And Mark has 20 here. So what happened? Let's go back. So the total item ought to be 32 plus 20. So can we just change this to the first letter 2 to be exactly as it's supposed to be Mark? It's still telling us it's 20. Let's go look at our stuff again. We have Mark 32. We have Mark 20. Why will he pick only one and leave the other one for us? Okay, let's change the name. Let's change the name to be Angel. So we're using Angel. And see what it will give us. 0. So it's telling us our formula is correct. It's telling us Angel did not make any sales. This Mark, Angel did not make any sales. Angel's sales was eggs, just eggs. So she didn't make any sales that starts with C. Okay. Let's look at Tom. Let's change the Angel to Tom. Okay. Likewise, Tom did not make any sales that starts with C in it. Some did not make any sales. Now, can we go back to Mark again? Wow. For one reason or the other, it's still giving us 20. But this is basically how we go about it. This is candy, this is cake. We need to know why. So this A2 to, can we change it to what starts with F? Let's have 2F. Let's see why our formula is giving us problem. Let's give this to fish. And let's have Sarah. Okay. And let's change this formula to we want F now, no longer a C, and we want the name Sarah. Okay. Now this is going to give us 44. Can we confirm? Sarah here is 14 for this fish, starts with F. Sarah here is 30, that's 44. Okay, so we are in the right part. So you can see that Sarah here, the quantity here is 30. We said two criteria, multi-criteria. The first criteria is that it must start with an F. With an F. We have flour, we have fish. And not only that, we said it must be by Sarah. But let's try something else. Assuming this cake now becomes maybe a frog, and but not sold by Sarah, will this change this answer? No, because the two conditions were not met. It met the first condition of starting with an F, but did not meet the second condition of being sold by Sarah. This is what I mean by multi-criteria. Multi-criteria. One of the criteria was it has to start with F, and it has to be a particular person whose name we called Sarah for it to accept it. So that is 3 different examples of SUMIF function in Excel. I want to look at some errors that we encounter. As you can see, as we are working on it, when we tried mark, the formula, everything was right. You saw it when we changed the name, the whole thing to something else. But somewhere along the line, we had this little problem of it not giving us the right answer. So you may encounter that once in a while. But if you know your application, your formula is right, that should not deter you. Just try to go about it again and see. Change the values, see whether you're correct. If you're correct, stick to it. So there are some common errors and their solutions. One other encounter you may have is what we call the value error. At times you may have this hash and you have value. There will be an hyphen and maybe at the end and says error. You may have another one that is name error. You gives you a naming and gives you a question mark at the end of it. Question mark at the end of it. So, or it may be a div error. Another occasion you may have what we call a div error, division error. But whatever the case is, this value error comes maybe due to if you check your work, you find out that within your ranges, maybe your criteria range and sum range, there is some difference, not the same number of rows or not the same number of columns. That's what mostly brings out this error, value error. But in the name error too, it comes sometimes, maybe you're using the wrong space, the wrong sectors. Instead of double quotation, maybe you're using a single for a text or no quotation at all. Like we found out here. In some cases here, we see we use double quotation. If I remove this quotation, we may likely have that error because it will not be able to understand the syntax. So let's see. You can see that the error is popping up to read now. So these are the errors you may come across, or division error when you're trying to do a formula with a division, right? And equals to maybe 50 divided by 0. You'll have a div error. I call this a div error. You have a div error. Just show you div. Let me see. Let me remove this. press enter to see you have a div error. So these are errors that you may likely come across when using the SUMIF function. Alright, finally we want to look at a free tips. But if you're still on the channel, I want you to please kindly click on the subscribe button and also click on like to encourage us to do more. We've been talking about the SUMIF function. It's for free. We're giving this for free, believing to help somebody out there. This knowledge and value will be added. So please kindly go down there and do the needful. Click on subscribe, and anytime we make any new video, you will get notified. Now I want to take this function here, this formula. As if I want to copy it, please pay attention. I want to copy it, and I want to put it here to reproduce it. Now if you look at it, we have B2, B8, C2, C8, and I want to reproduce it here. Assuming this is what I want to do. Oh, sorry. All right. Now I want to copy this. Control C. I want to reproduce them here now. Okay. And let's look at this now. This is supposed to be our SUMIF of, let's see the SUMIF. This is not for wildcard. This is for normal SUMIF now. Now, when we had B2, B8, we just copied it to reuse it or reproduce it. We had X. You come down here, you see that the values have changed. The cell values have changed on their own. It changed from what we used to have here. It just changed on its own to B6 to B12, C6 to. Likewise, this one also. From what we have here, it changed from what we have here before. B2 to B8, it changed. Now, these are relative cell values. So, if you're working in Excel and you don't want this to happen, we turn over to absolute reference value. Absolute. We'll call it absolute. Absolute, not the relative of it. Absolute. And how do we do that? How do we do that? So instead of writing this thing like that, we just simply the cell reference will add a $sign in front. So assuming I come back here, in place of this B in front, I had a $sign in front. Then after the, I'm of course talking about the cell reference. While another $, I move to the other cell reference, add a $, move to this, add a $, so on and so forth. To this, add a $, value, move to the next one, add a $, value, and add a $, then add a $, symbol, and press enter. Good. Now, if I copy this, my value will not change. It will remain the same. So instead of using relative cell references, please, when using Excel, please go for the absolute cell reference. With that, I want to conclude the class today on SUMIF. We're talking about Excel for a while now on different topics, and we're taking the formulas one after the other. So I want to thank you for being part of us. And once again, if you like what we have done here today, please kindly subscribe, be a part of us, and you'll get notified. Thank you very much. My name is Collins and Anthony. Stay tuned.